Dear ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, respected hosts, I welcome you to the panel discussions about 30 years of Croatian-German diplomatic relations. We have also subtopic remembering past and looking to the future. This panel discussion is organized by Konrad Adenauer Foundation Office in Croatia and Slovenia and Croatian Statehood Foundation. My name is Jakov Žižić. I'm a political scientist and postdoctoral researcher at the Catholic University of Croatia, and I will be moderating today's panel discussion. My today distinguished guests are Dr. Doris Pack, member of Konrad Adenauer Foundation, president of European People's Party Women Branch, and also president of Robert Schuman Institute. Welcome, Dr. Pack. And my second guest is Dr. Mate Granić. He's a special advisor of President of Croatian government for foreign policy and defense. He's also former vice president of Croatian government and also former foreign minister of Republic of Croatia. Welcome, Dr. Granić. At the beginning, I would call Mr. Holger Haibach, who is director of Konrad Adenauer Foundation office in Croatia and Slovenia, for his introductory speech and welcoming remarks.
Thank you very much, moderator, distinguished guests, and who everybody else is watching us right now. On behalf of the Konrad Adenauer Foundation Office of Croatia and Slovenia, I would like to welcome you to this important event where we commemorate 30 years of diplomatic relationships between Croatia and Germany. And we are also looking a little bit into what is expecting us in the future. Unfortunately, for reasons beyond my control, I cannot be in Zagreb, but I give you my warmest greetings from a very cold and stormy Berlin. And if there's one thing that came good out of this whole pandemic situation is that we've learned to communicate even if we are not together in presence. Now, the reason why we as a foundation took that subject on is that obviously it is something that needs to be commemorated, but it also shows that there is not an easy way ahead of us. And I'm very thankful to Dr. Pack and to Dr. Granić that they made themselves available to tell us a little bit about what the situation was like in 1991 and throughout the 90s, and how it came to be that Germany and Croatia have become such strong allies on a European ground, but also in NATO and in other international organizations. And that is even more important if we look at the challenges that lie ahead of us, especially within the European Union. Obviously, there are a lot of very different views on the situation and where Europe should go from here. So it's always good to hear from seasoned politicians what they think might be a way forward. For Croatia, Germany is strongly helping the attempt to enter the Schengen area and also the Eurozone, which I think would be a further contribution to the stronger European integration of Croatia as an EU member. So there is a lot of common ground, obviously. There is a lot to do in the future, and I don't want to delay this discussion much further, just saying thank you to both ambassadors, Ambassador Klinke, who has important meetings in the embassy and send us a video message, and also Ambassador Bakuta, who is accompanying Foreign Minister Radman to the Munich Security Conference and has also had was graceful enough to send us a message. I am very happy that we can actually organize this together with the Croatian Statehood Foundation, our long-standing partner in Croatia. Ever since the Statehood Foundation has been founded, we as Konrad Adenauer Foundation have been trying to develop training programs so new generations of politicians can come up and shape the future of not only of Croatia, the German-Croatian relationship, but also of the European Union as a whole. So thanks once again. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Haibach. And as Mr. Haibach said, we will now have two video messages. First is video message from His Excellency Mr. Gordon Bakota, Ambassador of Republic of Croatia in Federal Republic of Germany.
Pozdravljam cijenjene sudionike skupa u organizaciji Zaklade Konrad Adenauer i Zaklade Hrvatskog državnog zavjeta posvećenoj 30. obljetnici uspostave diplomatskih odnosa između Republike Hrvatske i Savezne Republike Njemačke. Zahvaljujem se na prominentnim gostima koje ste doveli na današnju konferenciju, u prvom redu gospođu Doris Pak i doktora Mate Granića, kao i moga kolegu veleposlanika Klinkera. Svaka obljetnica je prilika napraviti s jedne strane retrospektivu ukupnih odnosa, svega onoga što se zbilo, a naravno to su bili povijesni dani, također s jednim pogledom unaprijed, što nas očekuje. Zaista na 30 godina Hrvatska i Njemačka su razvile zaista izvanredne odnose, bogate na područjima od gospodarstva, turizma, politike, kulture i želio bih istaknuti da su danas to dvije države koje su saveznice u NATO savezu, a isto tako i partneri unutar Europske unije, zajednički grade europsku budućnost, zajednički grade transatlantske odnose sigurno i druge politike, kao primjerice u odnosima prema jugoistoku Europe. Ovo je prilika također razgovarati o bilateralnim odnosima. Mi smo potpisali prije neko vrijeme akcijski plan s kojim želimo produbiti upravo u tom novom europskom
to deepen it in the new European context and in the field of economy, tourism and culture. Germany is the number one partner in the Croatian economy, and Germany is also the most important partner in tourism. There are really many opportunities to deepen ties, all in a context that is very important for us in Croatia. It is about our hopefully soon accession to Schengen and the Eurozone. At this point, I would like to emphasize that we're very pleased that we're enjoying the support of the Federal Republic of Germany on this issue. I wish all the participants of the conference every success and the relations between Germany and Croatia every success for the future and many joint ventures. Thank you.
Verehrte Teilnehmerinnen und Teilnehmer, am 15. Januar 2022 jährte sich die Aufnahme diplomatischer Beziehungen zwischen der Bundesrepublik Deutschland und der Republik Kroatien zum 30. Mal. Ein schönes, ein festliches Datum, das uns, Deutsche wie Kroaten, als Partner und Freunde das ganze Jahr begleiten wird. Umso mehr darf ich die Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung und die HDZ-Stiftung zu dieser gemeinsamen Veranstaltung beglückwünschen, mit der sie ebenso zurückschauen wie auch einen Ausblick wagen. Die Entscheidung der damaligen Bundesregierung, Kroatien zu einem frühen Zeitpunkt als unabhängigen Staat anzuerkennen, wurde nach langen und zum Teil kontroversen innenpolitischen Debatten im Dezember 1991 getroffen. Die internationale Anerkennung und der Einsatz internationaler Friedenstruppen im Land waren ein wichtiger Schritt beim Aufbau Kroatiens, wie wir es heute kennen. Professor Granic hat dies nicht nur, wie wir alle, miterlebt, sondern auch mitgestaltet. Deutschland und Kroatien sind seit vielen Jahrzehnten ebenso partnerschaftlich wie freundschaftlich miteinander verbunden. Und dies spiegelt sich in nahezu allen Bereichen und allen Verästelungen unserer bilateralen Beziehungen wider. Hochschulpartnerschaften und Stipendienprogramme stehen für die enge Zusammenarbeit in Wissenschaft und Forschung. Die Deutsche Internationale Schule Zagreb ist eine unverzichtbare Institution im Bereich der Wissensvermittlung und der Förderung der deutschen Sprache. Deutsch wird darüber hinaus am Goethe-Institut Zagreb und an zahlreichen kroatischen Schulen.
The town twinnings are also particularly important. There's been a real element of cooperation of the municipal level for years.
Zeichnen das Bild
German is also taught at the Goethe Institute in Zagreb and at numerous Croatian schools and universities. Diverse cultural programs and a lively exchange of artists in both directions paint the picture of two countries that are equally aware of history and tradition of modern dynamic societies. Economically, Croatia and Germany are particularly closely linked. 400 Croatian and German companies in Croatia are members of the German-Croatian Chamber of Industry and Commerce. And the those political foundations do valuable work in the field of political education and in the exchange of socially relevant issues. The town twinnings are also of particular importance. They have been a real element of cooperation at the municipal level for decades, often more than 30 years. The nice thing about these relationships is that they do not correspond to political wishful thinking, but are lived on all levels, namely from person to person, men and women, or people to people, as it is sometimes called in modern German. Over 425,000 Croatians living in Germany, 2 to 3 million visitors from Germany who spend their holidays in Croatia every year are an important bridge between our two countries and contribute to mutual understanding. This diverse and active bond came into play in the current pandemic, but it was particularly evident with broad solidarity, help and support from Germany after the severe earthquake in Croatia at the end of 2020, the consequences and aftermath of which are still present. Our bilateral political relations and close trusting contributed to that. Since 2019, the German-Croatian Action Plan has defined priorities of our cooperation and topics of common interest, bilaterally and in relation to the EU. Not less important is the high degree to which Germany and Croatia are closely linked to strong and reliable partners on an equal footing, including at the multilateral level. The United Nations, special and subsidiary organizations like NATO and the OSCE are just a few examples of the increasingly important international cooperation. Croatia will also be able to celebrate 10 years of membership of the European Union next year. On its long road to new statehood, Croatia is today, if I may say so, a completely normal state that is asked that has to say something in this community and this association and has to make its decision. This means that Croatia is challenged far beyond a narrow geographic area, but due to its participation, it also has to be measured in terms of standard values and its performance. If I could wish for one thing after these first 30 years, it would be that we hear the word potential less and less. Instead, allow me to say, let's just do it. Let's take these valuable relationships into our own hands, resolutely, responsibly, and prudently, and develop them together for the good of both of our countries and the EU. Let's do it. Thank you.
Mr. Gordon Bakota, Croatian ambassador to Germany, and Dr. Robert Klinke, German ambassador to Croatia, for addressing our panel discussion and its audience. And now we go further to our panel discussion. Mr. Granic, in your memoirs, so you describe a lot these events about international recognition of Croatia in autumn and winter of 1991 and 1992, and you really stress the role of Chancellor Kohl and German Foreign Minister Genscher, and you even say that thanks to those two, there was a major shift. There was a radical transformation of attitude toward international community to Croatia that happened in that time. Very, very crucial for Croatia in autumn of 1991. Can you, as an insider, as a foreign minister, say something about, describe us these events?
Nakon pada Berlinskog zida,
After the fall of the Berlin Wall,
nakon raspada bivšeg
after
Sovjetskog saveza
the Soviet Union fell apart and after the communist regime
stvorili su se uvjeti za
was thrown
mirni
back, there
rasplet
were
političke krize
conditions
u bivšoj državi.
conditions created for the new
Počeli su
country, for the new state to be
razgovori
established.
predsjednika Republika bivše države
The presidents of the Republic, of the former Republic, started.
je tražio samo
Slobodan
jedno,
Milosevic
modernu
asked only one
federaciju
thing. He wanted a modern
u Srbiju
federation
sa
or
oružjem
Great
ili bez
Serbia with weapons, with armed conflicts or not. And President Tudjman just cut through these negotiations. He
a to znači pozvao je građane
withdraw from the
Hrvatske
negotiations and he asked the Croatian citizens
i taj
for
referendum
a referendum. And this
plebiscitarni
referendum was plebiscitary
stvaranja suverene
in
nezavisne
favor of the establishment of the independent and new Croatian Republic.
u 6. mjesecu
After that, in June
1991.
1991,
25. lipnja predložio je
on
deklaraciju
June 25th, he suggested a declaration on sovereignty in the Croatian parliament. And back at that time, beside the Pope John II,
ministra vanjskih poslova
and
Moka nitko nije podržavao.
nobody supported the sovereignty of the Republic of Croatia. It was only the Pope in the Vatican. And besides, some friends in the world, like it was Margaret Thatcher or
članice našeg panela,
or some members of our other members of this panel today, Ms. Doris Pack, who is the good spirit of the Croatian and German relations. And even James Baker, he was a state secretary of the US back then, he said to his presidents at those times not to join in and not to accept Croatia as a sovereign country. And after that followed the aggression, armed aggression by Slobodan Milosevic. The pressure got stronger and stronger. Croatia even accepted the suggestion of the Brioni memorandum and postponed this declaration for become fully applicable. We postponed it for 3 months. So in August 1992, Germany started to support the independence and sovereignty of Croatia and Slovenia as a solution to the existing problem, as a solution to the problem of the crisis in the former country. Without Germany, definitely Croatia would have not been acknowledged as an international state. Then the bombing of Banski Dvori of Zagreb followed, and President Tudjman, also there was an attempt to assess him, and that was the point where we interrupted all the relations with the former state. And after the city of Vukovar fell into the hands of Serbia, the world changed its attitudes, and that influenced many. The Commission also found and acknowledged that the old state does not exist anymore, and in this famous night from 16th to 17th December in Luxembourg, Chancellor Hans-Dietrich Genscher, with the support of Chancellor Kohl, first they talked France and England into that, and after that they passed the decision that Croatia and Slovenia, along with some terms we had to meet, are then acknowledged as two sovereign countries. The deblockade of the military points was signed. I signed to that. Then Minister Šušak signed January 2nd, 1992, a document in Sarajevo. Then the Wenzels plan was also appointed, then the peace forces and the law on the protection of the minorities. And the European monitoring mission also was accepted by Croatia. And Croatia by that had met all the terms, and January 15, 1992 we were acknowledged. But the biggest thanks definitely goes to the Croatian soldiers, the Croatian fighters. But without the support and the help of Germany, we would not have been acknowledged that time.
Chancellor Kohl and Foreign Minister Hans-Dietrich Genscher as the two main actors.
Ali druge prijatelje kao
Yes, but there were also other friends along with them, like Reichsmüller. And I already have said the good spirit was Miss Doris Pack. She was a member of the parliament, and definitely she was the person the Croatian public very well was familiar with. So big thank you to the lady. Thank you for developing these good relations between the countries.
Very turbulent, very dramatic. You were a member of European Parliament, but you were also a high-ranking official of German Christian Democratic Union. So you were positioned in these very important bodies of German politics. So can you tell us, what do you think? What were the main factors that contributed to this German role in their leading role in recognizing Croatia? It was definitely very hard and difficult for Germany. Germany was also faced with a lot of opposition and suspicion because of its role in international recognition of Croatia.
Yeah, first of all, I have to say that I was not a high official in the German politics. I was in the German Bundestag until '89, and in '89 I was running for the European Parliament. And in the European Parliament, you have to choose between, you have to choose a committee where you want to work, and you have also to be in a delegation for a state which is not yet member of the European Union. And the boss of my group, who know me from the former parliament at Bundestag, he said, and you, Doris, you go to Yugoslavia. I was shocked because I said, I know only where it lies. Yet it's good, so you don't have friends there. Okay. So I started in the region. I was totally neutral. And I tried to be neutral all my life in the region. 30 years, believe me. Perhaps some people believe that it's perhaps not the case, but it was the case for me. I know me, and I know that I tried to be. The situation was that I, as I said, didn't know a lot of the region, which meant that I had to go there. And in 1990, I entered in '89, just in the time when Germany started the reunification. And in 1990, I went to Belgrade to meet the German ambassador there, because I wanted to listen to someone who is there, who knows much more than me. And I can tell you that I got a very strong message. Mrs. Pack, please don't believe that Croats and Slovenes mean it sincerely. They don't want to go out. They want something else. Perhaps they can reach something, but please help us to keep Yugoslavia together. That was its message. And that was my problem. So I said, okay, if it is like this, I have to find out if it's the truth and what can I do. And in this time, you know, Mr. Markovic, it was the Prime Minister in former Yugoslavia. He was trying to make an internal market and so on. He believed he was on the right way to the European Union. But you know, everybody knew behind it was Mr. Milosevic yet. He was in 89, you remember. He was in Kosovo. Was in 87, or I don't remember.
1989,
in 89. Yes. He was in Kosovo. And in Kosovo, he said, where a Serb lives is Serbia. And he was taking away the authority of Kosovo. It was not a republic, but it has a special status. It was represented on the high level of Yugoslavia. So he took everything away and made this part of Yugoslavia, how to say, a special part. And it was, as I have followed it closely, it became an apartheid system there. Fact, this was a fact. And then I learned that we should keep Yugoslavia together. And what could I do? Then I went to Croatia, and I spoke to people in Croatia. And I went to Slovenia. And at the end, I learned, by doing this, that what the ambassador in Belgrade sees is not the truth in Croatia and not in Slovenia. Perhaps he believed that it is the best thing to do, but it was not correct. So, and then I learned that I had to build up my mind, and from this moment on, I was very close to the politicians in the region, in Slovenia and in Croatia. And I had friends there. I met all the people in the government. I was not important, but I was a member of a parliament which had an interest to know what's going on and to give a helpful hand if it is needed. I want to mention Žarko Domjan, who died. He was one of my best friends in this time, and he learned me a lot. And I met also sometimes the President Tudjman, and President Tudjman was a general. He was a Yugoslav general. And for me, it was clear he will not become from one day to another a Democrat. How could he? He was 70 and 72 years old, I don't know. So I think it was good to see all the people around him that we could at least help. And I remember that I started there together with the University of Goethe in Frankfurt to give a helpful hand to the people here to make legislation which is appropriate to the legislation in Europe. But it was, at the beginning, it was still Yugoslavia, and recognition was not to be seen. And you should know, and you mentioned it as well, it was a time when Germany was reunificated and was on the way to be reunificated. And you can imagine it was not, at least, very much approved by France, not by London, not by the Netherlands. Very few people were in favor. It was, I remember, Kohl had also a Spanish friend who was a socialist. The Spanish prime minister was in favor. So it was really a situation where the German government had to take care of the mood of the fear in the other chancelleries all over Europe, and we had to prove that we are Europeans. We don't want to be a greater Germany as it has been done 40 years ago. You know, this was very difficult because the feeling was something is going on, because Yugoslavia broke down, and this was something which nobody, not the French, not the British, wanted. They wanted to keep this stable because there was Yugoslavia run by a strong man. Tudjman was not Tudjman, it was, what was the name of Tito? Tito was a trustful man in this time when he died, and then he had followers which were not the same, but anyway. And there was suspicious ideas. When we spoke on Croatia, and in Germany, we spoke on Croatia, and we had a full understanding of the situation. There came at least the idea of, who was the ally? You know, this crazy thinking was still in Quai d'Orsay, still in London. I was really naive. I didn't believe that people of today in the European Union could think like this. But Helmut Kohl was cautious, very cautious. And I had good contact in this time because he has realized that I was very much involved here because I was the president of this delegation for Yugoslavia. And then I can tell you, it started to become, how to say, important to do something when Vukovar was taken. This was something which was shocking all of us. I don't know why we were much more shocked than perhaps Britain or French people, but we were very much shocked by this. And it was this time that Kohl and Genscher tried to find a moment to use this moment to do something. And then you have seen the total occupation of 1/3 of Croatia. How could we allow this? We didn't see what was behind. And we should have been cautious when Milosevic was in Kosovo. We neglected this. My first speech in the European Parliament, I was not a foreign politician speaker, but my first speech there was on the fact that we should not allow Milosevic to go forward in the spirit of Kosovo's speech on the Anselfeld. I remember it because, and some people looked at me as if I'm not really clear, you know. But said, listen, look what's going on. And then the occupation of 1/3 of Croatia, and we let it do. And this was really putting Helmut Kohl and Genscher to do what they did. To start at first to say we will recognize, and the follow-up was that in 92, the recognition from the EU in this time was at least done. But I want to tell you one thing which, how to say, gave a lot of my colleagues in the European Parliament also, how to say, a push to understand. In September 91, I was called by a professor of the university here, Mr. Cesar, Mrs. Pak, are you in Brussels on Monday? Yeah. I said, can you receive Croatian women? I said, yes, I can. So Monday morning, the president of the police.
Professor Ivan Cesar.
Bitte? Ivan Cesar. And I was on Monday, I was in Brussels, and the police officer, president called me, are you Mrs. Pak? Have you invited women from Croatia? I said, they will be here. Yes, they are here. There are 1,042 women, they are here. My God, I said, what should I do with these 1,000 women? They were on the way with buses and buses. So I took my coat and I ran to these women. And the first thing I got eine Kerze, was heißt Kerze? A bougie. No. Okay, there was a lady.
Candle.
Candle, yeah.
Candle.
No, anyway, a lady came to me and gave me this candle and said, it is a candle from Slavonsky Brod, please take it. It is a fire of our kids. Oh my God, I took the big candle. Later on, I gave it to my priest in my city, and it was in my church. It was until the end. But I coming there, I met these people. It was run by Bedem Lubavi, which was a female organization from here. And, the translation means a wall of love for me. So they told me, Mrs. Pak, we have no other choice. Our kids, my husband, my sons, they are in the Yugoslav army and they are ordered to kill their people. Then a woman came and said to me, Mrs. Pak, 1 week ago, my husband died. So I said, it is incredible. What can we do? And I gave some of these women a possibility to speak to the Commission. So 10 of them I brought to the Commission. 6 of them I took with me in the group of the EPP. We had on Monday a meeting, in the afternoon we had our meetings. And I said to my boss at this time, Mr. Martins was it, I said, please, listen. These are 6 women of thousands of women who came from Croatia to tell us that we have to help them because the Yugoslav army is forcing them to kill each other. Please do something. And I see still the faces of some of my colleagues. when these women spoke, this one woman who just lost her husband, she started. And I have seen some of my male men crying. But this was a moment where in my group, at least, there was at least a feeling that we should do something. I tell you this because, you know, a lot of things have to do with emotional understanding as well. Because if Reismüller was writing something, it was great, but it was taken by Germans only. It was not taken by the Greek colleagues, not by the British and so on. So I think it was a wake-up call for my group. And I'm very happy that the women did it. And from me, they went first to Den Haag, and then they went to Bonn in this time. So only to tell you, we needed this emotional approach to understand. And I was from the first moment on, I felt close to these people here, and I felt that they were lost. And then you have seen one third of the country was taken, and yeah, what did we do? 180,000 Croats were expelled. They were living in sportive centers or in Germany or in Austria, and in the Vance-Orban-Plan, they promised to change this. But until 1995, nothing happened. And then everybody was shocked that there was a storm taking back their own country. You understand, this was something which had to be understood and could only be understood by people who were on the ground and could.
So we can say that what you did in European Parliament with this delegation of Croatian women, it really had an impact on Christian democratic parties in Europe. We know that Christian democratic parties were maybe in one moment the only who advocated Croatian independence in many of European countries.
This was it. And I had now I had a Netherlands colleague, Harry Oostlander. He was with me from the early beginning for this, and we were in 91. We have been after the little war in Slovenia. I was leading a delegation with Otto von Habsburg, with his Protestant colleague of Netherlands, with an Orthodox of Greece, and a man from North Ireland. We were a group of the
interreligious. Delegation.
EPP group coming to Slovenia just after the war, 3 days after the war. And we were there, and we gave for these people also the impression what is really happening. Because if you read something, you don't know it really. You have to smell it, you have to see it.
You have to see the situation.
And and in the evening, Otto von Habsburg came to me because I was leading the meeting. He said to me, Mrs. Pack, Mr. Cardinal Kuaric has called me if you could come to the Holy Mass tomorrow morning to Zagreb, because we were on our way to Zagreb. I said, yes. And I asked my colleagues, yes, Orthodox, Protestant, whatever. Yeah, here we go. And I can tell you, this was also something which was very much impressive for my colleagues. We were in this in the cathedral on Capitol, and we were in this Kaiserstuhl on the left. And people went to communion, and elderly women came past Otto von Habsburg. They had nice handshoes on, and they said, Kaiserliche Hoheit, good that you are here. Now I can close my eyes. Can you imagine? For me, I had no idea of the Austrian-Hungarian situation. Everything was, it was new for us. And my colleagues, they learned at least where we are. And this was something which helped us very much to understand. So I want to tell this because these are personal impressions from people who had no idea of Tito Yugoslavia. We had enough communists on the left side. I didn't want to have communists downstairs. So for me, it was really totally new, and I was happy that I had a chance to bring people there. And on the other hand, Žarko Domljan was president of the parliament, and I invited him in '92, in spring, to come to my region, where we always carnival. After carnival, he came, and we have we are normally making, on Wednesday after carnival, we make speeches as in Bavaria. But we do it also in Germany, in some parts. And he could give a speech in my region, and he spoke in German. And he spoke in German, and he tried to explain the situation. Can you imagine? It was so helpful, because then in my region I could make a lot of things. I could collect a lot of money, a lot of help to help the problems, to solve the financial problems with
refugees
and so on, with BDM Lubavi. I have just found letters where they made often, this money was given to Mrs. Sowieso, this money was given to, it was incredible in this time what we could do. But, you know, big policy is important. But to put it down, to bring it to the heart of the people, I think this is what we could do. I was not the big person in Berlin or in Bonn. I was a small person, but with a lot of interest and courage and love. And without love, you cannot.
You can say you had a soft power.
Yeah, I had a soft power. Yeah,
thank you a lot for your insights. So, Mr. Granic, after the recognition of Croatian independence in 1992, and there were parliamentary elections in Germany, so Mr. Kinkel took the office of German foreign minister. And you also state in your memoirs that during the time you really developed very close and friendly relations also with Minister Kinkel. So can you explain us his and German role in ending Croat Muslim war in Bosnia and Herzegovina, building peace, building Croat Muslim Federation, for this enforcing of Washington and Dayton Agreement, and especially German and Mr. Kinkel's role in reintegrating the occupied territories of Croatia?
1991. godine i 92. i prve polovice 90.
1991 and 92.
Treće godine
Actually, until 93, as vice president of our government, I was in charge of the missing persons. We had thousands, 700,000 people, refugees, were taken care of in Croatia. Later it was 800,000. Those were mothers from Bedem Ljubavi. They loved, they adored Ms. Doris Pak. And when we came to the point to be recognized, that was in May. That year, the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina started, and the aggression, Serbian aggression, continued, first in Bosnia, then in Croatia. Unfortunately, there was also a war between Bosnians and Croatians, and why I've become a foreign minister and the vice president of the government, June 1st, 1993, I understood after the first meetings I had with the Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs and with I'm sorry, I didn't catch who the other ministers. Then Mr. Mitterrand and the Pope in Vatican, and with Minister Kinkel, who I knew from before. And we learned that without terminating the war between the Bosnians and the Croatians, Croatia cannot regain its international credibility. I remember very well that meeting, end of June 1993, when Mr. Kinkel, during these conversations, stood up 2 times and explained that politics as such is not acceptable. I tried to explain to him the entire situation, that it was an aggression against Bosnia and Herzegovina, against the Croats and Bosnians living there, and it needs to be stopped. And from that moment on, our tense cooperation started. At least 2 times a week we spoke to each other and we saw each other often very well. Croatia has accepted all the 2 and 3 points of the plan, the Stoltenberg's plan, and after our first meeting with Minister Kinkel and me in Bonn, 10 or 15 days after that, I organized a meeting at the highest possible level in Makarska between the military of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Havel, Bosnia and Herzegovina and Croatia, and there were also representatives of the International Red Cross Association and also the High Commissioner for Refugees. And we all together signed the Makarska Declaration on the free movement of the convoys and on the point of prisoners being freed, being liberated. 7 days after that, Haris Silajic was in Zagreb, who was at first Minister of Foreign Affairs, and later he was the Vice President of the, the President of the government of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And we talked about the topic of how to start an allied relation, and the result was the Geneva Convention of President Izetbegovic Tudjman on September 14th, 93. I went to Sarajevo, being in the middle of the war. I signed the declaration on the Croatian-Bosnian, that was the Croatian-Bosnian declaration, on the conflict, on how the conflicts need to be solved. And we both had camps, concentration camps, and we also resolved that the Croatian closed these camps. And at the end, when all that didn't end successfully, when they didn't accept Wenzel's, when the Serbs did not acknowledge Wenzel's plan, and when the situation became most difficult. I remember Rismok has organized January 3rd, 1994, a meeting between the Croats and Bosnians and the representatives of the international community in Vienna, and Klaus Kinkel has organized a meeting in Bonn. The meeting was on November 10th. There was also the high official from NATO, or the high official of NATO, and that was a meeting definitely on the highest level, where we tried bilaterally to stop war from going on. And even there we did not succeed. And when the Geneva conference also happened to be unsuccessful, Stoltenberg's plan, and I remember the most important meeting was held between the Special Commissioner of President Clinton, that was Charles Redmond, and myself in Geneva. That was a dinner which lasted for 5 hours, where we said that the war has to stop between Croats and Bosnians, and also we need to establish a federation. I have to point out one thing. It was my task to say President Tudjman and the Bosnians to accept that, and after 48 hours, under the American leadership, these negotiations were recognized, they were accepted. But after the president has acknowledged that, that was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Klaus Kinkel. And I know that back then we had a secret meeting with the Bosnians, with the Americans at the Frankfurt airport. And before I arrived there, and before the meeting started, I arrived earlier, and I had a meeting myself with Mr. Kinkel about the war and how to stop the war. Something else I have to emphasize, which is the fact most important, where, who? I didn't catch the name, I'm sorry. At the meeting at February 4th, 1994, after 45 minutes of meeting, there was a suggestion to stop the war between the Croats and Mitterrand. It is about Mitterrand. He suggested the changes and how the Croatia has to be led, and President Tudjman recognized these suggestions and they were implemented very fast, our proposals. So we cooperated with the US and under their leadership, then with Germany, and that was Mr. Kinkel, Chancellor Kohl, and the Vatican. And back at that time, that so critical times, Germany played a leading role, a key role. And as far as the public is concerned, Mr. Pak played definitely a huge role in the public. And until the end, after the agreement was signed, until the Dayton negotiations, Germany played a very important role. Also during the Dayton negotiations that led to the Dayton Agreement, Kissinger, the state secretary, during all that time in Europe, of course, number one was Germany, as far as that is concerned. So the Americans were leading the process, but Germany was most important to us. So it is to thank Germany for the economic help, especially for Bosnia and Herzegovina. That was so huge. We will never forget that.
So, Dr. Pak, due to certain democratic deficits in Croatian politics and political system during late 90s, Croatia faced a certain international isolation during the time. Even the FAR program was suspended. You later even criticized European Union why it suspended the FAR program. But in that time, this, let's say, sort of international isolation, you were one of the rare politicians who always tried to Europeanize Croatian politics, always tried for Croatia to embark on this journey of European integration. And now, of course, after this really long and scrutinized period of accession to European Union, Croatia now is a member of European Union. And now with this retrospective, after this process of very difficult process of European integration, what would you say are the most positive effects of this process, and maybe if there are some even negative effects of this entire process?
Yeah, I was tempted to continue a little bit earlier, because I want to remind you how unjust the European Union behaved after the storm. Mm-hmm. We should not forget it. For me, it was incredible. I couldn't understand it.
You were the only one who criticized
I was crying. I was crying because I remember it was in June that we just had the chance to allow the FAR program for Croatia. I remember I was in a studio in Brussels praising this and saying, no, we can start, and so on. And then the storm, for which I had full understanding, it was 1/3 of Croatia occupied. I know I was once crossing it to go to Banja Luka. It was as if I want to go to Korea. I don't know. It was very difficult, but I managed it because I had help as a former so-called foreign minister in the so-called Republika Srpska to go through, because I wanted to see the Bishop Komarica to help him. But I think what we faced in this time, that the Commission stopped everything with Croatia, let Croatia alone, and you know very well, if in such situations the government is alone, a lot of mistakes will be done. There was the war before between, then there was a situation that nobody looked closely to. If we would have continued to be closely there with the FAR program, a lot of things would have been on a better way and would have been done. So we lost for them time. That made me furious. I could not understand. And therefore I think that also in this time was the situation that in Den Haag, Carla Del Ponte was making this big mess. You remember, she was saying this storm, which was done to get its own country back, she wanted to make this war as a criminal
enterprise.
The war, not the acts, if there were acts, criminal acts in the war, okay, they have to be answered. But to make the whole war as a criminal act, I was for it. And I asked Mrs. Carla Del Ponte to come to the Brussels, to my committee. And she was there and she was trying to explain us. You can imagine I was not nice. And she was not happy having been with me there. But somebody had to explain this lady that if a part of the country is taken away by foreign offices, we have the right to get it back. Okay, I want to tell you this because this was the mood in this time which how to say, brought me to be very angry and to cry and to try to do my best to bring the country closer to the Union. It was impossible in this time, and I remember that in this time also the government under Tudjman was not acting as it perhaps should have acted if it would not have been rejected by the EU. That was a problem under which I was suffering, and a lot of my friends who have understood. And then at least, things changed, and at least Croatia could at least start Europeanization, but it could do it very late. You know, I remember when Helmut Kohl said to me at the early 90s, Mrs. Pack, no, he said always Pack, believe me, we will try to bring Slovenia and Croatia at the same time in the European Union. He wanted it, he promised it to me, okay. But you see what happened. So I think Croatia was then starting everything, and then there was a big obstacle. The border with Slovenia. How many years it was really hindering Croatia to going forward. I couldn't understand. It was two countries, sister countries, so to say. One was in the European Union. The other couldn't go forward because of this not friendly action of Slovenia. I couldn't understand. So I think, but perhaps I'm not a jurist, but I think it was not a Christian and not a European behavior. And then I feared that this is the first such act which will continue later on. And you have seen, what is with Greece? How long did Greece hinder Macedonia to enter? Macedonia was candidate before Croatia was candidate. And it is still not yet in, and even not started the negotiation, because these crazy, how to say, neighboring ideas which were not founded have hindered the situation there. And now we have the same with Bulgaria. You can imagine if neighboring countries are not action, are very egoistic and not action as Christian or the real Europeans. I said it's understandable. I live next to the French border. We had 200 years of war between us. We are friends. It is incredible that it is not possible in this region. And if I look to the region now, I can tell there is still a lot of unfriendliness between neighbors. I don't want to go in details. But I think then Croatia made it, and I have to underline, it was thanks to Sanada, the Prime Minister Sanada, that this happened, even if he was no longer in government when it at least happened. I have to underline it. He was a real European politician who was very much respected with his empowerment, empowering the country for entering the European Union. So then they are now in. And I was happy to see them in because I left the Parliament, European Parliament, after 25 years in 2014. And in 2013, I was happy to see them. I see the flag of Croatia in front of the Strasbourg building. And for me, it was really something which came to a good end. And to see some of my friends then in the European Parliament, as Andrei and Dubravka, and whom I know very long. I know her when she was mayor of Dubrovnik, and Andrei was my first stagiaire in the European Parliament, Croatian stagiaire. So I had a good relation to them, and I have seen that they came with a lot of European engagement, together with Stier, and I do not remember the other names. So I think this was really a good beginning. And I'm sure that Croatia has found its place in the European Union, the existing European Union, and I think that they will play and should play still a role in the enlargement, because the border of Croatia is not the border of Europe. Behind the cultural European heritage is in Bosnia and Herzegovina, as well as in Montenegro, as in North Macedonia, as well as in Bulgaria and Romania. So I think, I forgot to say Albania as well, I don't forget it. But you see, and Kosovo, I see Croatia could play, and not could, should play a role in this enlargement processes, because I think the enlargement in the European Union, the processes is not so much on the table, because we have a lot of problem in our own ranks, and I cannot say that all the members of the European Union are behaving as they should. If I look to Hungary, or if I look to Poland, or before Czechia or Slovakia, we had a lot of problems still, but I think we are together, and we should tackle this together. And therefore, I think Croatia could be a very good player with this, because they have the knowledge of the situation much more than the Netherlands or the Estonians. So I think, we are counting on them. And as long as Andrei now, he is a real European, but he is also a real Croat. So not forget, because in Croatia, being a real European sometimes is seen as if someone is not a good Croat. You can go to good Croat, as I am a good German, but a good European. This should enter in the brain of all people in the country, because European means all of us. And I hope the Croats will understand this, because they have really a very European prime minister now, and this will be good for the country. And if they could now join Schengen and Euro, I think they are as close as possible.
Thank you. And Mr. Granic, if we look back to these 30 years efforts of Germany to help Croatia with Europeanization, with joining EU, with social, economic, political, judiciary reforms, what would you stress would be the most important contribution of Croatia, of Germany, I apologize?
U različitim fazama. Prva faza je bila kada je Njemačka
The first step, or the first phases, was when Germany started end of August 91, when they supported the international recognition process in favor of Croatia, and that will be the most important moment in history. But the German government and also other people who created the atmosphere of good relations, well, they are equally important, and also 350 Croats living and working in Germany. Well, it doesn't matter how many Croatian tourists are coming to. No, they're also important tourists coming to Croatia as well. I know so many nice stories from Mrs. Park, so many stories, emotional stories from real people. Everything what happened during the war. They definitely influenced strongly the relations between Germany and Croatia. Another thing was to stop the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And that was the moment when Germany demanded us to do certain things to stop the war in Bosnia. And they also supported that process, and also economically they helped Bosnia and Herzegovina. And great thanks to the United States, because they led the negotiation process. The third phase, so the third period, where the storm and thunder operation both, well, that happened after the Serbs refused to negotiate with us. They refused the Z4 because that allowed them to have a state within a state. They refused to join the negotiations even. And January 31st, 95, when the Serbian minister refused to take over a piece of paper from Mr. Galbraith, we knew that as was the beginning of the end. We knew how the United States, what the United States position is and the German position, because we were constantly in contact with them. And we just wanted not really their approval, but we talked about that directly with Ms. Madeleine Albright. And with me, there was my Mr. Shimonovic, he was my assistant in the office, or my deputy. So, just briefly, Germany was in favor of everything. And when the storm operation started, Mr. Kinko was the first man I called up to say, we started, we are on. And I also called him up to tell him when Blesak, the flash situation, started. But I talked to about 25 ministers, foreign ministers at that time, to explain to them what we're doing. And later, the situation showed that European Union has blocked the process of the FAIR program. That was our EU accession. And we didn't have many friends back then, Germany only, and that was something very nice. Ms. Doris Pack just talked about it. She was always by our side, and even in the most difficult times. And the next phases was the Croatian accession to the EU, and we were blocked, the entire process was blocked due to the Hague Tribune. There were heroes of the Croatian war who were imprisoned there, and we were under Serb aggression, and the Croatian fighters were freed then, but it wasn't easy to accept that. Psychologically, it was not easy. We wanted the International Tribunal to be established, and we wanted the Security Commission to initiate that. So Germany was a very important ally to us, and a friend as well. And of course, it was a dialogue. And even though when something was going well, not well, or we liked it or didn't like it, we always could count on the friendly relationship with Germany. Of course, there was economy, tourism, aside of that, cultural, scientific cooperation, all that is of utmost importance, definitely. So this entire complex of relations between Germany and Croatia is definitely wide.
nikakvog prijatelja ne zaboravimo, specijalnu ulogu.
We never forget our friends, especially not the Vatican or some individuals who we will never forget. But definitely Germany is our most important strategic partner in Europe.
So, Dr. Pak, with this event, we commemorate 30 years of Croatian-German diplomatic ties. But of course, relation between these two nations are very deep, very firm, very multifaceted, very long, of course. We have a lot of these mutual connections in commercial and cultural and etc. And like what Mr. Granic, what he said, we will have this strategic partnership. We will have this excellent diplomatic and political relations. But how to give structure? How to give a structure to these relations regarding economy, regarding I don't know, culture, etc. How to strengthen this and deepen these relations in future? How to use these good political, cultural, historical ties and connections?
Yeah, but I think it's up to the different organizations to do so. I think I'm very much involved in culture. I'm very much involved in film. I has created in the European Parliament the Film Prize Lux. With him I was here. I think we have good relations. But I think what you need is much more, how to say, possibilities for young people to stay here and to get a job here, which means you should at least play in the business world, how to say, a more attractive role. Therefore, perhaps you should also renovate things in the daily life here in Croatia. If I look a little bit, sometimes I ask myself, how can it happen? You have wonderful motorways to the sea, but if you go as a normal people without car, if you want to go by train, you need, I don't know, 4 hours to go to Rijeka, or 6 hours to go to Dubrovnik, I don't know. It is incredible. So I think the infrastructure should be on the top level of the government. They should really try to do something in this field, because when the people realize what does it mean to be in the European Union, to be run by a real European, and to use the money of the EU. I don't know in which way this money, the recovery plan, is used in this country. I see in different countries different models. Some are losing time to do it. But I remember you had this crazy earthquake. I think after this earthquake, a lot of things are not yet done. So I think the administration should, but more as strong working as the politicians. I think they should really do at least, how to say, to solve the problems.
Like I know bureaucratical obstacles, you mean?
Yeah, there are a lot of obstacles, but they are administrative. Bureaucratic, which means the money is there. It could be given to the people who need it. Just after the earthquake, it's really important. And I know a lot of people who are still waiting for help. So if you can make an appeal to the administration to do something, and I think it would be great. Otherwise, we have, on behalf of tourism, you know, I'm how to say, I could earn my money for pricing the cultural situation here and the tourism education. The Germans like it, but not only the Germans, I think. They have seen that the cultural structures in this region is so full of things which are our common culture. I have learned, it was Biskopic, you remember, the former cultural minister, he opened me the eyes for a lot of things. Charko Domlian, he was a deeply cultural man. They opened me the eyes for the different cultures in Croatia. You have such the amplitude of cultural things which are European heritage, and I think you are using it, and I think it is now also in the higher levels of the different cultural organizations in Europe. And you have a very interesting film industry. Don't neglect it. It is really great. Unfortunately, in some years ago, a lot of things went not good under other governments, I remember, and I hope it can be recovered. You have a very good cultural minister. Her father was mayor of Dubrovnik in the former times when I started my time in Croatia. Nina is really a very good minister. I can only name such ministers whom I know really well in their work. So I hope that others are doing the same, because we need a flourishing Croatia which also shows the others next to them how it is if you are really in the European Union. It opens the eyes perhaps even for those who are telling us that they want to be European Union, but they are doing nothing for this. Just close to the door to you. I think Bosnia-Herzegovina is a bad example for those who speak on Europe, but they don't do anything because they are always, playing their nationalistic behavior. Let them live together. In 2030, Bosnia-Herzegovina will be a senior home. Nobody will be there, which means we should avoid that people have to go out. But if they don't see a future, it's even a little bit also still in Croatia. If they don't see a future, they go out. And therefore, please, if we can, with the foundation which is hosting us today, if they can give this smell of courage, of empowerment to stay here and to give all chances, because I don't think that people is leaving full of, they're going to Germany because they don't want to live here in the region. It's not true. They would prefer to stay here. So therefore, I hope very much that all these people who are working for this, like Mr. Granic and others, they should really be listened by people from the Konrad Adenauer Foundation via this nice talk, that it is worth to work for this. And as long as you have really a lot of empathy and a lot of soft power, you can even do something, even if you are not powerful. But soft power is much, much needed, as you said it.
Thank you, Dr. Pak. So, Mr. Granic, what do you think? What will be some of the main challenges of Croatian-German relations in future? Will the main topics be Croatia entering Schengen area and Eurozone? Will this be two most important topics in the future of Croatian-German relations, or something else, maybe relations in Bosnia and Herzegovina or something like that?
Nekoliko je bitnih tema. Prva stvar za Hrvatsku je
There are
ulazak
some
u
important
Schengen.
topics. Well, for Croatia, the accession to the Schengen area is very important, and the support by Germany. And this is of importance for entire Europe.
Izuzetno važna.
The support of Germany is of utmost importance. Germany and France, very important at this moment.
I vjerujemo da smo jako blizu.
And we believe that we're very close to that, to entering the Schengen area, and that it will happen this year.
Zonu koji je
The Eurozone,
gotovo sigurno.
which is, I would dare to say that it is almost sure, January 1st next year. Croatia is working on that, and of course the support of Germany is very important there as well. The third important thing is in foreign policy is of how to solve the problems in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Because after the Dayton Agreement was signed, the biggest challenges today are the following: to ensure constitutional level of all the nations and a European way for Bosnia and Herzegovina, to make Bosnia and Herzegovina work. Croatia is supporting that strongly, and Germany can be of help as well, because to talk about that now, that Bosnia and Herzegovina is a country of citizens, and that also Milosevic said of Yugoslavia. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, there are three nations, constitutive nations, and during the Dayton negotiations, we led these negotiations, and only 1 day and a half we spent on that, and there was and Krešimir Zubak also differences, some also the Warren Christopher and the Vice President Al Gore, they supported us related to that. And then that was the time when this matter was solved, and they understood the process of constitutionality, that 3 nations, as far as the vital interests are concerned, that this needs to be established. Otherwise, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, there were 830,000 Croats back. Today, there are less than 500,000, and the moderator, the host, says less than 400,000. So 400 to 450,000 Croats are left in Bosnia and Herzegovina. In other words, the interest of Bosnia and Herzegovina is to support the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Bosnia and Herzegovina. We are against any separatistic ideas, but also we are against any intrinsically ideas. That is, so, well, in relation to Ukraine, to Russia or Croatia, is a strong partner to the European Union, and we will lead a strong and firm European policy, and as far as NATO is concerned as well.
Final question regarding this new German government consisting of Social Democrats, Liberals, and Greens. What do you think? Will there be any new directions and orientations, or maybe any changes in regarding towards Croatia, even maybe if we look our neighboring countries, even towards Bosnia and Herzegovina?
I don't think so. Okay, Mrs. Merkel is lacking. She has created the Balkan Summit, but at least we should try to influence the new leading person, and I try with my little competences to do so, because I know a lot of people who know others whom I can speak to, that they take much more care of the situation in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Okay, the Bosnia-Herzegovina situation is a result of Dayton. And the constitution is a result of Dayton, and it is not really working. Huh? You can in Bosnia-Herzegovina not have one entity normally structured with municipalities and so on, and the other with 10 cantons. It's incredible. If you have 160 ministers in one part, it is not possible. It means it is also a possibility of a lot of corruption necessities and so on. So for a long time I am asking them to do so, and the Croats sometimes believe that I against them because I said give up these cantons. I said if the power of these cantons in Bosnia would be done in the municipalities where it is normally, it would give the Croats the same possibility to act for their nations as if it is in these crazy countries where the canton are sometimes working against the municipalities because they are different parties and so on. It is a crazy situation, and I feel really sorry.
Majorities.
Yeah, it is incredible. Anyway, we should help the country to overcome the situation. So therefore, we should also influence our Croats there, because they should not play the role of Dodik. It is incredible in which way they are more or less divided and sometimes in common, where I say it's not possible to see two of them speaking a little bit against what is the need of the state of Bosnia-Herzegovina. It is a state of 3 nations, and it should be working together. But coming back to the question of the government, I think our former foreign minister who came from my region even, Mr. Maas. I don't know if he have ever been here. I do not remember that you have seen him in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Anyway, he didn't play any role in this question. It was not in his portfolio. I hope very much that in the Green portfolio there is much more interest in this, because they have been involved. You remember, Fischer was foreign minister when Germany entered the war in Kosovo. It was the first time, so it means there is, I think so, a more understanding and more willing to be engaged.
Maybe more even interventions.
Yeah, I think it is possible. I think next week a short discussion with the leader of the European Committee in the Bundestag, which is Mr. Hofreiter, who is a Green, and I hope that I can give some ideas. I can only offer some ideas.
Insights from the field.
I think there is. I trust this government on behalf of interest in this region, because Kinkel and Genscher were liberals. Why should their followers not be interested in the situation here? And I remember one of the liberals is Graf Lambsdorff, who was with me in the European Parliament as well. So I think they are more, they can be at least continue, and perhaps also being a little bit more stronger in helping the countries to overcome the actual situation. So I hope very much that, I'm sure that they are not against anything, and I hope that they are going also in the right direction. So I don't fear anything. I think this is, they are Germans with a real approach to these things, because, as I said, the liberals and the Greens were involved before, so I think this will be continuation.
Okay, thank you. And one last final remark regarding Croatian-German relations, like the topic said, remembering the past and looking to future. Yeah. One really short final remark.
Njemačka je pomogla Hrvatskoj.
Germany has helped Croatia when it was the most difficult, during the most difficult days, and that was when we had to defend ourselves from the aggression of Great Serbia and when we established our country. Germany has helped us also related to the process of international recognition. And it is clear that today what is of utmost importance is that Croatia for sure is concluding the process related to the Schengen area and the Eurozone as far as the European Union is concerned. I mean, our accession. And Germany is still helping. And another important thing, as far as Croatia is concerned, Croatia is definitely a responsible member of European Union and NATO. And our Prime Minister, Mr. Andrej Plenković, is implementing a responsible European policy and politics, and as certain or recent events have shown related to earthquake and so on, well, Germany can count on that. I agree what Mrs. Pack has just said. Germany is a huge and responsible country with its own politics, and where the relations between Germany and Croatia will develop in the same direction as it has been the case until now. Like friends, and as Mrs. Pack says, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we definitely condemn corruption and this bad way the country is being led and operated with, but everybody needs to have its own interest.
Final remarks regarding...
You know, I lost my heart in this region, early 90s, because I learned a lot. I learned what it means to live in a country which is occupied. I learned a lot of concentration camps, which I not have learned in Germany because I was too young. I saw it here. For me, it gave me a basis for a better understanding of politics. So I think, thanks to the situation here and the politicians I met here, I could really, how to say, direct my political engagement to get at least some positive results. And so one of these positive results where I was a little bit working on was the entrance of Croatia in the European Union. And I thank all the colleagues who were working for this in this time. And once again, I lost my heart in the country, also in the region, not only to the Croats, but I think in summer, Croatia is my second home.
That's nice. Thank you all for our time is over. Thank you for your very interesting, very fruitful remarks and your own insights. And thank you all for watching and participating in this discussion commemorating 30 years of Croatian-German relations. Goodbye.
Thank you.